Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can.
We can hear you. Isn't that great news?
That is. I'm sorry I'm late. The Firefox had to update.
Oh, well, and we're still waiting on Doug too. He said he'd be here, but he's not here just yet.
So I'm not late.
You're not as late as Doug.
Hi, Brucey.
Hey, it's
I won't be able to.
Hi, Maggie.
Hey there.
Make me a presenter.
Can't make you a presenter because you don't have that DOEI.
He's here.
Can you email that to me?
Yeah.
And then I should be able to.
Probably too big.
Oh, looks like he's gonna get a shot.
Well, I can try.
Oh, here's Doug. Yeah. Maybe try emailing it to me and then maybe I can share it.
Yeah.
Yes, every place you want, you walk out of the meeting.
Go to my meeting there. It's a good place for conventions.
It was,
Pretty small.
yeah,
Really good.
I tell you, you get lost in that hotel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good on the gym.
You're all here.
All right.
Different way every time.
I will.
You're wrong.
Hey, there he is.
Happy to be here.
And this is at the airport, and that's just your stop. See what you did, we did out. Now look here. Everything is, well, because of course, that's how good it is. I don't know why you haven't recognized that.
Oh, I know that.
All right. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Other me. First on the agenda would be approval of minutes from February 26, 2025. Those were sent to the members of the board by prior email. Do you have a motion to approve?
Having previously read the minutes.
It's a roll call either.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying, oh,
You take roll
we've got
first.
to call the roll because Mr. Shaw is at a distance from us, sadly. Karen, will you call the roll?
Of course. Tom,
Yes.
Maggie? Yes. Bruce?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes. Minutes have been approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda would be approval of claims in the significant amount of $194,730
You gotta go on the
and
agenda.
25 cents. Again, that claim packet was sent to us by prior
Make it
email.
the agenda.
Do we have,
Hold on, Doug. You're getting ahead of yourself. There's an amended agenda because it's two different agendas.
Yeah.
yes. You're right.
And we didn't take a roll call for everyone that was here to start the meeting. We just jumped into it. That's just me being,
Start over.
The attorney.
yeah.
How,
Maybe we should get an attorney to run this meeting.
So would be dead.
Listen, you guys keep electing me to this position. If you can find somebody else who will do it.
None of us wanted it.
I know, that's why I got stuck with it. So apparently, Karen, to satisfy Mr. Davis, would you call the roll?
Doug?
Yes.
Maggie?
Good afternoon.
Yes. Bruce?
Yes.
Tom?
Present.
All are
Actually,
present.
I'm not.
All right, we also need to amend the agenda and add in an additional item, which I believe is actually the first item of business, which would be authorization for the airport director to request Aeroplex TIP funds for the replacement of the South Side Maintenance Building roof. Do I have a motion to approve amendment of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the amendment agenda as amended? Am I in trouble again, Mr. Davis?
I'll take the role of Tom.
Tom.
Tom?
Yes.
Maggie? Yes. Doug?
Yes,
Bruce?
Yeah.
I promise, Mr. Davis, I'll behave for the rest of the meeting. All right, back to the airport.
And he's got to do a motion to approve the agenda.
I just did that.
We did.
You should make a motion to amend the agenda, and then you have to do a motion to approve the amended agenda.
All right.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the amended agenda, Karen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Tom,
What? Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
Maggie.
Yes.
I'm so confused.
Doug,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yeah. Okay, the agenda has been amended. And so the next item on the agenda as amended would be approval of claim in the amount of $194,730.25. Do we have a motion to approve claims as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Any, Mr. Schreier?
Excuse me.
Karen, this took so long to go through this, I forgot what my question was. What was it?
Your question was about the safety clean invoice.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that was for cleanup, Andy. Was that something in the maintenance building?
Right, it was all the, collection where all the oil and grease collects, before it goes down to the drain and.
The interceptor in the floor?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was full.
It just had to be pumped out. Okay. Yeah. That's it?
Okay, any other questions?
Not very often.
Any other comments?
No.
I know you have to see it.
Hearing none, Karen, if you call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Doug.
Aye. Next item on the agenda would be the airport manager's report. Mr.
Okay.
Jones.
All right, thanks, everybody. I'll talk a lot about the conference that I went to, but first, speaking of the maintenance building, we're continuing to have problems with the plumbing. We redid plumbing, put the water softener in, installed the toilets, everything, but problem is inside the wall where the cast iron goes down to the floor, it's covered with concrete. It was probably what happened, we opened it up and it got exposed to the atmosphere. It flaked, it's rusted away, so it came in one day in the toilet, which is in wall mount, was sitting on the floor. So so the concrete's gotta be broke. Yeah, we opened the wall, we saw all these tags that said Shriner and Son.
No, you didn't.
I swear. You guys installed all at the beginning, didn't you? Back in the 80s. Anyway, I swear it said that. Anyway, so we gotta call somebody home, we gotta break the concrete away and look at it. We're working with the building department on who we talked to about that. We had it inspected once by the inspector, so we're working on a plan. So you might see, you'll see an invoice, I'm sure, from a contractor to fix that, but it's gotta be fixed, so. That's one thing I wanna let you know about, but obviously I attended thanks for sending me to the AAA, the American Association of Airport Executives, Airport Safety Operation Special School. The focus of the school is on the FAR Part 139, and it's an airport management system. It's primarily covers airports that have scheduled air carrier service of 9 passengers or more, but much of what they discuss and they cover are applicable to all airports in terms of safety and operations. Of course, our airport used to be a Part 139 airport, so we're still adhering to, the daily inspection programs and many of the other things that you're required to do in order to maintain that certification, because it just adds to the level of safety and it increases our safety record or continues to keep our safety record intact like it is now. They talked about updates to the plan that have happened between 2005 and 2023. Like I said, it was very comprehensive, much of which applies to all airports. And in particular, some of the parts I was really paying attention to were safety during construction, because we've got some construction projects coming up that are going to require keeping a bird's eye view on certain parts of the airport. Obviously, surface maintenance is very important to it. Lighting, what all the markings mean, how that's changed over time. directional signs, the differences that whereby they might look very similar, but they're different, and what the differences mean. All those things I'll be, sharing with our maintenance employees. And then they spend a lot of time talking about wildlife management, birds, all the hundreds of species of birds that different airports work with. And yes, coyotes. Everybody has problems like we do with coyotes. So that was good to know. It wasn't just us. And then the emergency plans, how important those are, and how those need to be NIMS compliant these days. And speaking of safety, I forwarded all of you a air show email I got about a incident that happened. I think it was in Laredo, Texas, where because of the emergency plan training that the air boss had put together and asked the emergency responders to attend, they did a tabletop and all that stuff. And then lo and behold, the next day, this aircraft took off and had to come back and ended up crashing on the airport. And they had a quick response time, and ICAS and the FAA were complimenting the air boss, for doing such a great job. And I sent you that because I just received an email from the Mad Bomber, the one that had done the pyro for the air show, asking if we were doing an air show this year. So it's fresh on my mind. I thought I'd send that to you. And lo and behold, it was Scott Duck. It was our air boss. They didn't mention his name in the article, but it was him. So I thought y'all would like to know that.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Will be questions.
Any questions for Andy?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none. First item on the agenda under new business would be authorization for the airport director to request Aeroplex TIF funds for the replacement of the south side maintenance building roof.
Right.
Mr. Jones.
We had, maintenance had kind of done a self-repair that held for some time. The intention was to put the roof repair amount in the capital budget for this year. But because of the time I'm presenting my budget to the mayor and the city controller, we were anticipating asking for the remainder of the funds we needed to build the hangars, which was $270,000. And then also estimated over $500,000 for joint repair to runway 927. So that was a pretty big ask. So maintenance thought we could get through it for another year. As it turns out, after that meeting, the mayor and the controller decided to fund those two projects a different way. But so when I requested the funds for the roof, it didn't happen. Well, it's to the point where there's water running in, something has to be done about it. The membrane itself is kind of flapping in the wind. The last thing we need is for that to get loose and go flying across the airport. And we don't discover it until aircraft lands in the morning, after nobody's been here. So talking to the mayor's office and checking with the redevelopment commission attorney, they say that this roof repair replacement does qualify for Aeroplex TIF funding, of which we're inside TIF district. So with your blessing, I'd like to be able to request the funds from the redevelopment commission once we have quotes, which I'm working with the building department on getting quotes and drafting quote specs. Once we have those and we can make a recommendation to the redevelopment commission to award it, I'm hoping that they'll see the wisdom of funding that for us. So, but it begins with asking your permission to allow me to request the funds from the RDC.
You have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Moved
Beat you to
and
it, Andy.
seconded. Any questions for Andy?
A question. Andy, how much do you think it's gonna cost?
Could be 60. Could be. It's a pretty big job, man. If they're gonna have to tear off.
What size is the building? About.
It's over 4,000 square feet, maybe. The decking, everything comes all the way down to the metal, where the preliminary specs all the way down to the metal, underneath. I said, I'm working with Tim, the building commissioner, on specs. The quote specification. He has a lot of experience, that's why I'm more than I do. And then we'll ask, of course, we'll ask for at least a 20-year.
Do you have any other questions?
I do not.
No further questions? Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes,
Bruce,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda would be a lease agreement with National Supply, LLC. Andy?
Yeah, National Supply LLC is a existing tenant here. They have a land lease with the airport signed by the late Pete Legal. So since his passing, they needed to change the entity associated with National Supply. It's on the land lease. So this is, Karen, this is just a change in name on the lease, right?
Correct.
All right, do you have a motion to approve?
so moved.
Second.
Removed and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, right here, just a question. How long is their lease and are they, extended or anything like that?
It's a long-term lease. It was entered into in 2019. I believe it's a 30-year lease,
Okay,
at least with then there would be an option to extend the normal.
very good, thanks.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Andy, this is for you and for Kevin. And this is the downside about having another municipal attorney on,
Yeah.
on the commission. Who determined the insurance limits? And let me put it this way, in, the contracts that I deal with, the limits are a little higher, and I wondered if these had been when John Esper came on as corporation counsel, he increased some of the limits also. And so, it's just a thought, if this is our standard lease, when the next one comes up, we should look at,
Yeah.
maybe,
This year, this week, Andy and I had a conversation. We need to update the lease agreements because some of it's just old language that we just keep rolling over and over. So that's a project for us to do this year when we start renewing these leases.
okay, I just thought the insurance limits could kind of be uniform throughout the city's contracts.
Yes.
It's a good thought.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes,
Bruce,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda would be a T Hangar 65 new lease with tenant Scott Duff.
Right, it's this is your standard, change in tenant. These T-hanger leases are month to month. The previous tenant has moved out. Scott Duck was an existing tenant here. It was in another hangar. You're here with Kevin Orth. He has his own hangar now, so he's interested in leasing 65.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
second,
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when I come prepared. We don't have an insurance requirement at all on that. I did not see an insurance requirement. I saw, indemnification. But, anyway, so again, thought that might be something to keep in
Well,
mind.
Obviously, the structure we insure, through the city's insurance. So the tenant would just be required, I'm sure, especially if they have a lien on an airplane, they're gonna have to have insurance on the contents on the aircraft. But that's never been anything that we've asked to see. I think those are all boilerplate, hangar leases.
Mhm.
What would be the benefit to that? Or why would,
Let's say that one of the lessee's employees slips and falls,
Mhm.
okay? We don't know that they have workers' comp insurance even. Do you see what I'm
That's a
saying?
good point.
They have agreed to indemnify us, but
have
if they don't have
it doesn't
insurance, that would
matter.
be us tracking them down.
Yeah. It wouldn't
So,
matter.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
I just work too closely with the risk
Mhm.
management.
Well, obviously, one of the things the T hangar lease language says is, the board can, at any time, make changes to those. So, we've done it before.
I mean, my thought is, approving, but if you're looking at the other lease agreements,
We can
maybe
change it.
looking at this one too. For
Yes,
that.
definitely, because this one we can change, because it's a month to month, so we can change a lot sooner. Incorporate it.
We'll take a look too at maybe what the other airports around the area are doing.
Because,
That should be good. Yeah.
Because one thing we don't want to do is price ourselves out of
Right.
markets. Like all of a sudden, well, you gotta have, this big policy that costs X amount to be at Elkhart.
Yeah.
Cool, question to clarify. So you're saying, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of referring to T hangar 65, he's leasing it, and he brings one of his employees with him, and they slip and fall?
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was just giving an example. And the fact of the matter is, in cases like this, I'm sure they have the insurance. But when they say that they are going to indemnify us, usually what they do is they put us as a co-insured for that, on that property. It doesn't usually require any more expense. It's just
Okay.
paperwork.
And that would include a family member, a friend, anybody that's there with
Hey,
them?
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then what happens if something, we're insured if there's a fire and if it's contiguous hangar, T hangar, then our insurance is gonna cover any damage to the next one over. But I guess, I don't know which one the
It's the ones all
65
the
is.
way in the far,
Oh, the
west.
last set down there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all right, that's,
I think it'd be very helpful to revise that,
Mhm.
ask for a certificate of insurance, those types of things, and make that a standard component of the lease.
Yep.
And I'm gonna guess that that's not out of the norm for the other airports.
Mhm.
Certainly, anytime anybody uses one of our buildings,
Limits.
we're looking for a certificate of insurance. Any other comments, questions related to this particular lease? Hearing none, Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
and Doug.
Yes. All right, which takes us to our next item on the agenda, which would be back to the maintenance building,
different one this time.
HVAC repair.
Yeah, this is the maintenance building on the north side of the airfield here. We have a quote, Johnson's to do these necessary repairs. They, provide us with a quote along with a long contract, which Kevin has. And he's asked for a couple, I would consider to be minor changes. The, Johnson Controls has kicked it up their attorneys. We anticipate an answer soon. Rather than waiting another month for another board meeting, we were suggesting that the board approve it based on legal signing off on it. So it wouldn't be a blanket approval, whether Kevin likes it or not, it would have to be. We'd have to be in agreement on this. And Kevin, do you recall offhand I know they were,
I thought
We had a discussion
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, you
Kevin
and
and
he?
I.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, we were in complete agreement.
What, okay, so what do you wanna do?
Well,
I guess that's up to you.
well, I'll tell you, as the board, I mean, I would entertain such a motion, but given that we have conditions in the lease that need to be addressed, absolutely, I'd want to have legal, you know, anything that would be actually would be subject to receiving legal prior approval for the thing. And I would be happy to entertain such a motion.
I move that we approve the maintenance building HVAC repair subject to, legal's approval.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We're gonna have a motion by without a second there for a second. All right, any discussion?
I think we've had the discussion.
Well, we always do that. You know, I haven't quite gotten to follow Robert's rules.
Why do we need legal to replace a heating unit?
I can explain that. It's because, they gave us a quote or they gave Andy a quote and then they attached a number of conditions that make up the contract that has to be signed with them. And they have, even though it's not a lot of money, the conditions are what Kevin, my discussion with Kevin, we thought were kind of onerous and needed to be changed.
Why do we need to use them? That's not usually in a,
They're the city contractor, aren't they?
Yeah, the city has an agreement with them
Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, it's Johnson Controls.
for the time being.
you,
And-
you get,
And I understand completely because I'm
now I understand.
reviewing contracts on a constant basis. It's the boilerplates that they hide typically as click on this link where the terms are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and this is 4 pages.
But they're used to doing 40-story
See it.
it's the
buildings, not
Yeah.
a maintenance shed.
Yeah.
And
This is what they said.
The question.
I think I think they got too involved when they went with them. That's my own.
Approved contract.
Well, I guess I would address this to council. And so Kevin and you've talked about what was onerous about it? You said onerous, which means there's a
We're gonna
burden.
do the 6-page addendum.
Yeah,
To agree.
that's, the things that Kevin and I talked about, they wanna charge interest if it takes more than 30 days to pay.
Mhm.
And we don't typically agree to that because State Board of Accounts frowns on that.
Yeah.
They wanted to limit their damages to whatever we pay on the contract, which we don't typically do that. They want to be the sole determiner of whether we can file a lawsuit or if we have to go to arbitration. They want us to indemnify them, which we don't do. So there you have it.
But
Add
if
to
there,
that.
are we having this kind of discussion for buildings and grounds, environmental center, where if they're a city contractor?
The contracts that come to me all go through that review, and we have been working, the attorneys for city legal, we have had meetings going over, we're putting, together standard language that we want in and what we want out.
Well, I'm not the authority here, but we've had some of these discussions before where State Board of Accounts rules how we can deal with these sorts of things, and they should know that. What are they trying to pull?
Well, what it is they deal mostly with the private sector. And so it's just like Doug said, they'll even send them to them electronically and say, click here, that you agree. And you don't even realize what you're getting into.
Okay.
But the city, as you know, we have to look at things more closely.
Yeah.
Sure,
If I can give you some other examples, venue,
Yeah,
this contract is Delaware.
yeah,
This
Yes.
is, this
And then
contract
arbitration
would
is
be governed by
Wisconsin.
Delaware
yeah, we
law.
can't do that.
Those are the things that, the legal department rightly has objected to.
Mm-hmm.
An agreement that our first choice of action would be arbitration.
So it sounds like they're just trying to homogenize their approach.
They
Absolutely.
are,
Mhm.
they
Absolutely.
are. They don't want to rewrite a contract for every single, customer.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's why we take it on ourselves to go back to the.
Thanks for the clarification.
I feel like we need a lawyer joke now.
Later, I'm sure there'll be another opportunity, Mr. Shaw.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? If not, Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Yes. And I'm not gonna sign this because this will not be our final form.
Right.
Right. But I will sign it. All right, next item on the agenda would be runway 927 replacement, professional service agreement with, somehow with BF&S.
Right, we've had.
No.
There's no motion on the floor, Mr. Shaw. Settle down.
Obviously, we've requested and received this professional services agreement from BFNS to oversee the runway 927 joint replacement project, include, the oversight, the inspection work, bidding it, et cetera. And city legal has reviewed the agreement and given it their blessing. Asking the board to approve it. This will be one of the steps in the process toward ultimately with a appropriation from the council for the amount of the project.
I would move that we accept BF&S professional services agreement.
To a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, again,
I knew it.
here. It's my understanding this is just an additional scope of services to, go on to a 2019 agreement. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. When will we be renewing? I mean, it's a 6-year-old contract, the state always throws in certain things like, investments in Iran and different things like that. And, so it typically, every so many years, we probably will want to, start fresh with a new agreement.
We go through
Just-
this, we go through the selection process. There's every 5 or 6 years. We're due about now.
Mhm.
It's this year. We'll go through the selection process again.
Oh, okay. Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
even aware that you did that.
Yeah, Andy and I had this conversation earlier this year, based on a conversation I had with Jamie, that we should, look at this relationship again
Well,
and,
there's a law pending right
Mhm.
now in the State House that you have to, every single contract you have to bid out. And it passes, they pass the Senate, if it passes the House, then all of the contracts that we currently have in place will become null and void like July 1st.
What do you mean bid?
You have to, like professional services, you have to, I don't know.
You'd have to go through an RFP
Yes.
or an RFQ
Okay,
process.
yeah, no, that's-
That's what we're talking about here.
right.
Yeah.
The FAA requires for FAA projects every 5 years. Well, not, they don't require it. It's recommended every 5 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, but, they're not usually bid. Bid means price.
Yeah.
That's normally a qualifications based on federal law.
Yeah.
So I don't think Indiana can circumvent that, but this is a locally funded project, so you can do whatever you want, right?
That is not correct.
I mean, I shouldn't say whatever you want. You can do whatever complies with state law and
Yes.
local law. You don't have to follow feds.
Oh,
on
I see
this,
what you're
because
saying.
This is, right, sorry.
Yeah.
Not whatever you want, but
You
you
know,
don't have to worry about the FAA, other than you have taken FAA money, so the reason Andy wants us to be involved is so that we use an FAA specification and the FAA materials. Because in the past, when that's not happened, it's not gone well for the airport, so we want to make sure that we have the right joint sealant and that the joints are prepared right, so.
And the markings have to be correct. You know, they
Yeah,
have to be
yeah.
put back on.
No.
Paint.
And we will disturb the markings quite a bit, like the center line joint. The center line marking is 3 feet wide. So that joint goes right down the middle of it. So most of the center line mark will have to be,
It's gonna be pretty much the entire runway is what we're gonna propose be included in that. Cause I mean, the cracks run all the way, you know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all over.
Well, that answered my question.
Thank you.
yeah. No, it's this year. And so it's just $2,500 for the actual documents to come up with the specifications and put it all in, so it's not really much. Then $3,500 to do the safety phasing, which is required by FAA. When you're doing construction work on a runway, you need to submit a safety plan to them. So we'll do that for $3,500. The bid assistance is $4,000, so that's to answer all the questions, come to the pre-bid meeting, take the contractors out there. Then construction observation will be, that's like all of the pay estimates that come before the board, reviewing the materials, submittals, all of the contract work before the construction starts. And then during construction, the resident representative is not full-time, it's just a part-time, $5,000 just to come out, make sure that they're cleaning the joint faces correctly and getting them prepped with the sandblasting and so forth like that. That'll be added here. We won't stand out there and run up the bill the entire time they're working because it's a very repetitive, long process, but make sure that their means and methods meet what the FAA protocol is. And then once it's done, we'll walk the runway with maintenance and make sure that they don't have any gaps in the silicone or the silicone isn't up too high, so the plows rip it out after it's installed, that kind of stuff.
If you're curious in kind of getting a good example, look at what this is. This ramp here is exactly the same way. And it's in great shape still. Right. If you walk out the door and look at those, that's what we'll be looking at for that.
And if you ask how long this runway is 15 years old on the concrete surface that we put on, and this is the first money we've spent on it since we put it in. So it's performed very well since we put the concrete overlay on, and the joint replacement joints are recommended every 10 years, but it's performed very well. It's exceeded its usable life for sure on the joint sealant. So feel like we've got a good piece of pavement out there, and with replacing the joints, you'll get another 15 years out of it before you got to do anything
Well,
else.
early on too, we learned that we needed to switch the old plows over to those with the that plastics, was it
The
silicone?
nylon.
Nylon bladed. And then also we had bought the type of plow that had wheels, so the weight of the plow is not sitting on not on the runway, damaging it that way. It was a paradigm shift for the maintenance crews to look in their rearview mirror and still see a little bit of snow on the runway, but that's why we have a broom.
Yeah.
They don't have to see bare pavement anymore. A broom comes right along and it's beautiful.
Any other questions or comments on the VFS services agreement? Hearing none, Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yep.
Bruce,
Yes.
Yes. All right. Agreement is approved. Next item would be plan review on runway 1836 pavement rehab project, and advertising the project for bid on April 30th, 2025, with a bid opening of 5/28/25 at this year very meeting. Do you have a motion to authorize? Okay, so that's necessary. Just require any action or just,
I don't know, what is it?
I mean,
This
just
is the
looking at
plan
the
review.
document there.
Yeah.
It's
we
not
wanna-
letting me share. I'm trying to get it,
Okay,
trying to get it on the
It
screen.
just
but
says,
it's not.
please review the plan for 1836. So Paul.
Yep.
Would you review that plan with us?
what we'd like you to do is to review the plan, assuming everybody's good with that plan, we'd like to advertise it. The advertisement doesn't go into the newspaper until the next board meeting, but you actually have to submit it in advance of the advertisement date before it will go. We want to open the bids, May 28th board meeting. So that'll give us basically a 1 month advertisement. But before we even advertise it, we want to make sure that the board's happy primarily with the phasing. And I definitely want to talk about that with ISB in the room so that everybody's all on the same page with the operational impacts of that. So, since it's not letting me share the screen, I have hard copy, just one hard copy of this. It's very small, but I'll verbally describe it. So we're rehabbing runway 1836, basically a 2.5 inch mill of the asphalt. We're putting back 3 inches of asphalt. It will be a larger aggregate than what's on it now, with a 3/4 inch surface, which is extremely large compared to what you see on your surface streets. Over time, we have found that 3/4 inch helps bridge the bridge the reflective cracking. It slows that down and helps the overlay last longer. So basically, the project is we'll repair all the cracks, fill them all in up to the surface. There'll be a mill, there'll be a 3 inch, then we'll paint it back, and then we'll groove it, and then we'll paint it back again. So I'll have grooving at the end. So for this work to take place, there are some obviously impacts to the airport operations. 1836 obviously needs to be closed for a little while. The issue, if you'll go to sheet, let's go down to, let's just go to the next sheet for right now. So this is the scope of worksheet. That kind of shows you the limits, and it's kind of hard to see on that screen, but the limits go out to the hold bars on taxiway Delta connectors, and then from the 18 threshold that's in line with the taxiway on the north end, but it will not go past the threshold because the FAA doesn't like that little taxiway. They want us to redo that down, so they didn't want us to put money into it right now. So that's kind of the limits. The red X's are areas where we don't want the contractor to drive. We don't want them driving down Delta because we got to get aircraft to those hangars while they're working on it. But so if you go to the next sheet, Karen, this is the phasing plan. You'll see there's 3 colors on there: green, purple, and yellow. The green, basically the runway's closed, contractor can work in that area. There's no restrictions to taxiway Delta, and no restrictions to 927 at all when work is in that area. When work is in the purple area, and this is important for Tower and IFC to know, we will need a NOTAM in place that says for aircraft with wingspan larger than 79 feet, so that's bigger than a B2 category aircraft, greater than 79 feet, we'll need a 24-hour prior permission request to operate. And the reason is because if you go to the next picture, Karen, this kind of zooms in a little bit. There is the text is a little small, but there's a runway safety area line that comes down right here. Under normal conditions for aircraft larger than 79-foot wingspan, the runway safety area actually overlaps 1836. They share the same safety zone. And so in order to have an approaching aircraft on 27 that has larger than a 79-foot wingspan, you should not have anything in the purple box, basically.
Hey, Paul?
Yeah.
You're pretty familiar with our based aircraft?
Yep.
Do we have very many
space that are larger than 79 feet, you probably have some transients, like
Like Gulfstream.
a Gulfstream, a Global, Citation 10, that kind of thing.
680, is it? No, it's underneath.
So, you know, and chances are the pilots may not plan their flight 24 hours, but you'll have your NOTAM in place. They can call. If they call and ask for prior permission, we'll get the equipment out of there. It's not that big a deal. We just need to make sure that we do not have a mill or a paving machine on 1836 while we have an approaching aircraft 27. That's all. So,
It would not impact anything coming on or off of 9, right?
well, technically the safety area is both ends at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's anything on 9 or 27. Now, the reality is a departure on 9 is going to be rotating long before that.
Right.
And an arrival should, if they're not stopped by 18, you've got problems anyway.
Right.
But technically 9 is impacted too. Yeah. So that's going to be the operational restrictions. That's scheduled to be a 23-day process with the 24-hour prior permission request in place. But you should be able to get them in and out.
This is working daylight only, I take it?
Well, the milling, so there is, if you go down another sheet, and this is probably going to be really hard to see, maybe one more. Down one more sheet, I think is, yeah, okay. And then over to the left. Let's see. Yeah, put on your. Okay, yep, and then down just a little bit. I don't know, we may not, yeah, keep going. Can you go this way more?
This way.
Yeah. That's as far over as it goes. I'm confused. I don't know where you're at. Let's see. Let me look at this
I
one.
tried to zoom it in.
Yeah. I'll just tell you verbally enough. We can save it here. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's 23 days for phase 1A and 1B. So that's both the green and the purple. There was a little strip of yellow. That's 3 days. That little strip of yellow was on Delta 3, where you've got Delta 3 is that funny angled connector. Well, there's a strip that's in where the whole bar on that is beyond the taxiway object area for Delta. So we have that Delta 3 and Delta closed right there for 3 days. But 1836 will be open at that time, so you can back taxi them around it.
Okay, go around.
Go around it. Yeah. And so that will be a 3-day period. If you go up one sheet, Karen, you'll see, the yellow stripe. Yeah. So that.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, this little yellow piece right here, this line is the object free, and so you can't taxi down it while people are working here. So we'll have that closed, and you'll be able to back taxi them around in that time frame while they're on a problem. And then we'll wait basically 30 days because the asphalt's got it. So there'll be a temporary paint. It'll be a 50% application. They'll wait 30 days before they put the grooving on because the asphalt has to cure for basically 28 days. It's not concrete, but it's still the same 28 days. So they cure the asphalt out 28 days, then we'll groove it and put on the permanent paint after the grooving is done. That'll be a 6-day process, but a lot of times the grooving happens at night because the grooving, particularly if it's summertime, the grooving companies like the cooler temperatures, they use a lot of water. So that's the phasing of the project. I don't think we need to go through the rest of the plans unless if Mr. Reeser was here, he might want to, but the rest of you probably do not. So.
That's for sure.
I'll tell you about it, but I don't want to belabor the meeting, so.
All right, we do need to have a motion to authorize the advertising on April 30th. Is that
So
correct?
moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? Anybody who really is dying for more transportation? Oh, I'm sorry, I gave you yet another opening. Yeah, if somebody would like to say afterwards.
Yeah, God, I'm just thrilled. This is great.
Compared to research.
Yes. All right. Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item would be approval of the progress estimate on AIP 40.
You want me to speak?
Yes. I'm
So-
sorry.
Yeah, so this is a little confusing. It's a pay request to the FAA, but this is money you've already paid the contractor. So this is getting your federal money from the feds back into your local bank accounts. So you're not paying anybody, you're asking the FAA to pay you. $122,000 is the total amount on that, of that request. Of it, the feds will send you a check for $110,038. The state will eventually send you a check for $6,113.25, leaving the balance of $6,113.75 that you cover locally. So this is a reimbursement for expenses already incurred on.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Whew. Karen, please call the roll.
Tom,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes. Yes. Mr. Davis, will you cause some trouble over there?
No, man, no, sir.
Any privilege of the floor?
I had a question for the airport manager. I didn't know when I was supposed to insert this, so may I ask that?
I believe so.
Okay. Andy, when you went to that conference recently, did you visit a 1980s secondhand store to buy that shirt?
I get sense on this all the time.
I know, I can tell.
Actually,
Usually from old ladies, but yeah.
actually, Tom, if Andy's got clothes old enough that if he wears them long enough, they come back into fashion, you know?
I know that.
Only problem is they're all extra large.
Okay, apparently there's nothing further proposed to the floor, although, Mr. Shaw, I was a little worried early on that there might be some unauthorized people at the Shop World headquarters. Somebody came onto the screen in the midst of our meeting there.
Stacy wanted to see you, Doug.
Better my best. All right, is there a motion to adjourn so that Andy
So
can get
moved.
this next event? Thank you, everyone.
Wait a second.
Need a second for that.
Oh, second.
Hanging out.
Thanks, everybody.
Got a motion
Thank
and a
you.
second.
Bye,
We are
Tom.
done.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chocolates.
Yes. Thank you.
I said maybe we should ask Kevin, the proxy, should he be on the signature page of the plan or not? Who's the proxy?
Can research.
He's not
It's just
here.
like we did, did you trade in your other
No,
one?
the kind of, it's just like that. Same
Yeah, you can
thing.
drop him off at there, because he's not here. If they put
Just
it
gotta
today.
introduce.
I'll send you a new one of
But he
these.
helps with it all.
You can just have them all sign it.
You are-
I'm Donnie Pine.
The docs on it. Yeah.
Now we're-
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
He's the boss.
Work
That's
on
all.
it. He wants to drive.
That is all you.
It's in the.
Yeah, you later, maybe.
Because our dog.
Yeah,
Well, it'd be like a
thanks.
shed.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
chocolate,
guys.
Karen. Thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm pleased to report that we have all of the requisite signatures.
The ground next to it.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Davis will try to